Welcome to Play, Watch, Listen, which is a video game podcast featuring myself, Austin Wintory, who's a video game composer, and Mike Bithell, who is a video game director. We are currently very backlogged. This was recorded about a month ago and is only just now being uploaded, so y'all are going to get double podcasts this month. Apologies for the delay. Patreon's got the episode early and also with an extra, I think about 5 to 10 minutes of this particular episode. And they are also the reason that this show exists at all. It is very independent, entirely sponsorship free, and their support allows us to keep the show as organic as it is. So if you are a supporter on Patreon, we really appreciate you. But even if you are not, we hope that you enjoy the episode. Here it is.
I was in Oklahoma this week doing master classes with these universities, but one of them, they said, "Do you mind speaking to the high school orchestra and band program?" And I went in and I said, "Any questions?" Literally the first 15-year-old kid, first question. "So what do you think about AI? What do you think that's going to be?" And I was like, wow, at 15.
If I was 15, I'd be asking that question, to be honest.
True. Fair.
I'm even just having I don't know, I underestimate the worldliness, I guess, of a teenager, but I just was amazed that was on their mind. Like, you know, I guess, you know, it had been told in advance that we'd be talking about presumably mostly video game music, and I suppose the sort of technological adjacency of those topics would almost sort of, you know, could kind of make it not that surprising that that's where their mind would go, but still.
Kids are engaging with this stuff, though. I've got
totally.
My sister's a teacher, and I was chatting to her over the weekend, and like they just have kids now submitting work with AI and not at her school, but there are also stories of teachers marking work with AI. So it's this kind of loop where the AI is grading the AI's work.
That's what we're having on, like, you know, Google's pretty much useless now, which is infuriating, but it's gotten even worse because it's AI informing AI. So, like, AI articles are pulling from other AI sources. You know what I realized just recently, maybe in the last couple of months, that I now look at Wikipedia as the best possible source.
Kids,
what a shift.
Have completely delegitimized Wikipedia. That's another one that she was saying is kids now. She had to explain to a kid that Wikipedia was a better source than an AI, because the kid was AI knows everything. Wikipedia is like just people posting stuff, and my sister had to like walk them through, like, AI is badly duplicating Wikipedia information a lot of the time. Like, it's anyway.
What's interesting is that you made me think of this in a new way, or a slightly modified way, at least. That's actually
what we do here, Austin.
It's actually
welcome.
It does actually feel like a fair statement to say AI knows everything. The problem is that everything, as a sum total, includes lots of falsehoods and self-contradictory.
Good way to put it. You're right.
AI
what he's
statistically
saying
knows the next word.
Yes,
but
what he's saying is it knows
it's
everything, including things that are inaccurate.
Oh
yeah,
no,
exactly. And it has no mechanism. It has no mechanism for differentiating those things. Is the current challenge. You know, that's the thing that's interesting. But it's like there is no actual sort of, like, anything that's online theoretically is part of the knowledge set, which means it is, for all intents and purposes, everything within within our current sphere of knowledge, right? But it has bad a curation, though.
Yeah, well, it goes beyond that. It has a library of all information, but it's not a very good reader. That would be a metaphor that would work. It has access to all that information, but it keeps misreading the fifth word in the sentence. You know, there's that brilliant. I clearly went down a YouTube hole, but I keep getting served these videos of it's a guy trying to get an AI to count to 200. Just please count in sequence from 1 to 200, and it's incapable of doing it because it's not designed to actually understand.
It doesn't know what that concept is. Yeah.
Well, that one's interesting because wouldn't if the way LMs work is that they literally just predict the next most likely word, wouldn't counting be one of the easier tasks?
What's funny is,
but does it lose the directive some way through?
It loses you can see it having all of the kind of the obvious kind of AI problems in there. Kind of it loses track of what it's meant to be doing. It interrupts itself to say, "I'm having a really good time doing this. I'm glad we're talking about this." That's my doorbell going. I don't have a guy coming. I don't know what that is.
Have you seen? Have
bring
you
him
heard
on.
of a YouTuber?
Bring him on.
What's he got to say? A guy from the street? What do you think?
Have you heard of? There's a YouTuber named Alex O'Connor. This is very exciting.
Sorry, go ahead.
Window into your life. there's a YouTuber named Alex O'Connor who's got a YouTube channel that now I think it's under his personal name now, but it used to be called Cosmic Skeptic, and it's sort of broadly speaking about philosophy, and he just has lots of long form conversations about philosophy and religion and history and all kinds of things. And he has a series that are quite funny where he essentially tries to convince ChatGPT that it believes in God through just like slow, simple arguments of, well, okay, so wait, if you agree to this premise, can you not agree that this logically follows? And he's an atheist. Like his whole thing is usually debating religious people, or at least he has done a lot of that in the past. But he just found himself thinking, I wonder if I can convince this thing. And they're really incredible.
That's a cool concept. Like, how does he succeed?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. He gets it to, because it's one of those when you're actually talking to a literal, like a chat GPT that's trying to be very conversational in its presentation, it will say things and then you'll go, well, wait a minute, doesn't that contradict what you said a minute ago? And then it'll own up to it semi-successfully, and probably more successfully as they iterate further. And so that's essentially all that he's doing. Well, he's saying, well, and he's leaning on classic apologetic arguments, of like, the fine tuning of the universe and the et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just really, it's been a little while since he made one that I've seen, but I just remember it's really funny because it does all its silly, like, you're right, I apologize. I did ignore this piece of information.
Infuriating.
But before you know
but it's also just going to repeat back. Like he would get the same result. Where it's wild is he would get the same result if he made up a fallacious argument. If he said, you are factually inaccurate in what you just said because the sky is purple, the AI wouldn't correct him. The AI would say, you're right, the sky is purple.
Right,
and I apologize for not remembering
I think some of them...
No, they have fixed that particular thing.
Have they really?
Yes, but
well,
what
I think
it
it also
say...
depends which one, right? Like they're all
True.
kind of in competition with each other to the degree to which they will...
What it would say would generally
behave
be
under
something
that.
along the lines of like, I hear you. It sounds like you might be a little confused, or maybe we're having a joke. Haha, this is fun. But no, the sky is blue. Like it will.
It's all
it will do
C3PO.
that.
Oh, that's progress then. I will grant that. That is progress.
They
and
are
probably
constantly
better for
working on trying to fix
humanity.
them. I was just thinking about this the other day that when we first started talking about AI was like not too soon after NFTs, and there was a period where we apologized for talking about them too many weeks in a row. And we were like, we're not going to talk about AI anymore. But sadly, it's our whole fucking industry now. So it just comes up all the time.
It's certainly the conversation. I'm hearing about more and more use of it behind the scenes. That's definitely is being used, but everyone I talk to, and this is not like, me self-selecting for people who would agree with my biases, hopefully, maybe it is. But like, it does seem like in all cases, it's being done to appease the bosses rather than actually improving the process. Or
That's
I
definitely.
can give you one
it's not
example.
working out cheaper.
I have a programmer friend who I was asking about it because I've heard programmers tell me that it can be a real force multiplier for their work. And
I was thinking about doing a YouTube video that was like, I asked 20 programmers specifically about using AI, but sorry, I'll let you finish. But the person that I know who's the most veteran programmer, her name's Alyssa, and she was telling me about it. And she was basically like, effectively only useful if I have a coding related question. Like if you would,
Correct.
how you
And
used to use
also-
Google.
Like as a Stack Overflow or Google.
Yeah.
Well,
alternative, yeah.
my impression I got from talking to my friend, because he was working on a game and he was showing me a feature, and he said, this is the only feature in the entire game that 100% of the code to achieve this feature was made by what's it called, like Claude? Is that what it's? That's like one of the kind of more I think program. I think it's the one that the programmers tend to use more. And but he said the thing is, this guy is a programmer, and he goes, it took a lot of iterations. He goes, it's really complicated code that he goes, I may have been capable of doing this on my own, or it would have taken a long time. But he said I had to do a lot of iterations and test it, and if I didn't already know programming on a deep level, I wouldn't have been able to leverage it. Because I wouldn't even know what it was doing wrong. I just would know that it didn't run correctly.
Sure.
And so, but at the same time, it got him somewhere that it wouldn't, at minimum, would have taken him a lot longer. And so it was one of those where it's just the thing that always stands out about stories like that is he has to have already learned programming to fully take advantage of it. Which to me, there's like an interesting to the extent that all this inspires kind of nihilistic dread about the world, there's a hopefulness in that where you go, it can't actually replace knowledge because it's not useful without that knowledge.
Yeah, okay, but I don't think that mega corporations care that much about.
Well, reality would hit them in the face. Well, but quality
that's
to matter.
the thing. That's the thing, is the damage this will do is about what CEOs believe rather than what I get where you're coming. Interestingly, on the programmer thing, just because if I don't say it, it'll be in the comments, all the analysis that's been done at scale has said that outside of specific anecdotes, using these tools marginally slows down skilled programmers. Like, there are outliers. There are moments where, like, it sounds like what happened to your friend, where like one thing will happen in a really accelerated way, but done over a long enough timeline with enough programmers, it seems to trend that actually it slows. If you're of a certain skill level, it slows you down. It does seem to accelerate people who don't know how to code, which is interesting, but arguably they're not learning the lessons along the way that would get them to the next stage. So it's interesting data-wise. I'm not invalidating what you're saying, but like it seems like
it could be that this is a super outlier. Yeah. No, I have no.
Apparently, there's a lot of outliers. Like, there's definitely lots of people who are having those experiences. It just doesn't seem to track kind of generally. I just know if I don't say it, someone will say it in the comments. So I just like to say it.
I'm not making any broad claim about now or the future. I just find it. I find it fascinating, and but to the point of, if it's not actually saving money or improving quality, which are two halves the same thing, then it will be abandoned in the same, like, I just don't see.
And that's the interesting moment that seems to be approaching, which is the thing that I know we've talked about this in the past, but this kind of the fact that right now it is being massively undercosted to the consumer. The fact that this isn't completely true. There have been accelerations and things have gotten cheaper, but it is still massively. For a lot of stuff that is currently being used for less for coding, in fairness, because that's mainly text, but a lot of the image and video stuff we're seeing is being so massively undercharged, and the hardware that's required to actually run that stuff is being undervalued. It's at some point this stuff is going to suddenly become much more expensive to the consumer, and the question is, have the CEOs fired too many people by the point where that number kicks in that they get screwed over by that, and that's the question I think we're waiting for, to see, like, when will the crash is inevitable. We can quibble over
definitely
whether the crash,
inevitable, and it's going to be huge.
We can quibble over how AI exists after that, because
I will make the case AI is not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. Exact same way as .com era bought us Amazon, and actually, sorry, eBay first, but then Amazon, which is a mainstay. I don't think AI is going to disappear in the crash, nor do I think it is 100% useless. I refuse to use it, but I understand that there are, like, it's the presentation that I think was opening I did recently, when they were like, it made a slideshow, and it's like, well, it did. Not really a thing I need that much help with, though. Thanks.
I think I'm interested to see what that ecosystem looks like after a crash, because I think that's when we'll really see the value proposition of it, because essentially at that point it won't be overinvested. It will, as you say, Austin, people will use it for the shit it's useful for, and they won't use it for anything else, and that'll be interesting to see.
I'm sure there are a lot of prior examples that are vaguely analogous of technologies that were being treated as this panacea to all of society's ills, and then it found its actual.
I mean,
role,
I remember Internet Panic. I'm old enough to remember, like, people were freaking out about the internet before it kicked in. Rock and roll music, like, there are those things. For me,
no, but I just mean the utility.
It's not part of my process, because I don't enjoy I wouldn't enjoy using AI. I want to make stuff. When someone says, I really liked your game, I want to know that they're complimenting my work. It's a pure ego thing. I don't want to give that up. I don't want to give up ownership of what I put
It's funny.
out there,
I had a similar answer to that, to those high school kids who were asking me about it, where I said, if there was a tool that could, part of the problem is that a lot of the technical aspects that are theoretically more AI-able in music still require a lot of subjective subject expertise. Things involving engraving of sheet music or preparation of stems, all that kind of stuff that goes into the actual deliverables. But if there was a way to kind of reduce the amount of time that stuff took as a kind of it's not even post-processing, it's like the packaging up of materials, that could be great, honestly. I'd need to know it was error free is the problem, because it's sort of it's like the final proofread of the article, in a manner of speaking, where you go, that's the part that can't go wrong. You can't insert an error at the last second that nothing's going to come after it that could find. So I would need a high degree of confidence in the tech. But the idea of, I go, it's kind of like when composers, there's definitely the Hollywood model of, building up a large stable of assistants and things, and there's all these questions of ghostwriting or quasi ghostwriting, and I always, my answer to that has always been, it's sort of the same exact answer, where I go, it's never been a feature of success for me to write less music.
No.
That is sort of directly the opposite of the goal and the dream.
Yeah.
If I can make it more frictionless, and if I can make it something that is more efficient, and I might spend less time doing certain aspects of it that aren't actually writing music.
If I could trust an AI to handle my calendar and my emails.
Mine's invoices, man. I fucking hate doing invoices.
Invoices, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of that.
Like, I would absolutely use it for that, because I would just, that stuff. But I've got my dream job. I'm not going to give up a second of my dream job,
Yeah, exactly.
No,
exactly.
the only thing that, like, I've ever had someone, which is still funny, in games writing tell me that they use it for is to find a synonym, and I go, well, cool, I just Google that, and then I use like a dictionary website
every day.
So I guess I do that too sometimes. I have to look up a synonym because a word's not right, or a word sounds too modern, or whatever.
I literally had, and I'll have to wait until we finish recording, I literally had to, I did a thesaurus search earlier today for a word that very clearly reveals what I'm working on, but I had the thing where the AI results on Google couldn't understand the simple single syllable word I was trying to get thesaurus, so we're putting like stupid other alternatives up. It was I had an AI meltdown.
What could go wrong?
Trying to use a thesaurus, yeah.
Which I do
what could
think
go
that
wrong in the industry as well. We're gonna have to get to that at some point, aren't we?
I do think that the way that Larian and was it Sandfall?
Sandfall
have been using AI is likely to have been being used across the AAA industry very broadly.
What have they been doing it for? Concept
Sven called it pre-concept art, which to me is still just concept art. But yeah, it's like idea generation.
Like drawing something on a notepad and showing it to an artist and saying, "Can you make it look like that, please?"
That's what
I'm trying to think what pre-concept art is. That's what I would define.
That's what it should be, but I guess that they were using AI generation for ideation before concept art, which is what concept art is for. I actually would not be surprised if that has been adopted across the entire AAA space, but I would think that a lot of that probably happened before people realized a lot of the issues with AI, and thus opted to not use it anymore. So I think we're going to get a whole wave of that exact thing being used very, very, very broadly. I'm very curious, obviously, go talk about that, to see what happens with Xbox. There is no way that you hire a CEO of Core AI unless you are trying to find a way to integrate it into the Xbox brand. That is clearly what she's been hired to do. I don't buy any of the people saying that she was hired to sunset Xbox. It's totally to try to make it work within their very AI hungry ecosystem. I'm like, what is the first thing you do with that though?
What does that mean? How would you, if you, right, I've got a gun to your head, Alana. I want you to integrate AI into Xbox, or
Mike,
Xbox into
stop
AI.
you right
what
there.
Are you doing?
Just fucking kill me. Pull the trigger. I'm done.
Unfortunately, I did get an AI to tell me how to load the gun, so it isn't loaded properly. Sorry, that didn't work out.
So I maintain that they have a big focus on getting people to opt into the cloud. Game Pass subscription goes hand in hand with that. But that is AI adjacent insofar as that technology will probably be improved with AI frame generation.
It's definitely server farms, which are most of the business models. So yeah, that makes
And
sense.
the problem is chips are too fucking expensive / don't exist. So they can't afford to make consoles right now. I think this is an Xbox campaign. I feel like a lot of people talk about that as though it was a failure, and I would say that we have not actually seen the outcome of that campaign yet. I think that is much more...
Which campaign?
Yeah.
This is an Xbox. It was a Sarah Bond-led campaign that reportedly everybody hated. I was totally fine with it. Made sense to me.
Can I be the voice? Can I be the voice of this? I don't think it was a Sarah Potter. I think it happened before she joined. Or it started before she joined. She may have taken it over or been given marching orders, but I think it predates her. I'd have to look up the numbers.
The initiative feels like it was earlier than that, but I'm not actually sure. But regardless, I saw a friend who works at Xbox after that happened, and I was like, cool campaign. And he was like, really? You're not joking? Because I guess everyone hated it so much. And I was like, no, I understand what you're doing. Like, clearly Xbox has an initiative to try to get away from console hardware, to try to go into subscription service almost exclusively if they can, and to try to get into markets where there isn't a high adoption rate for console hardware. There's one of the few regions in the entire world that doesn't already have a huge base of video games is Africa, where they do not have a lot of video game consoles, but there's pretty high adoption for mobile. So Xbox is trying to make it so their brand will work on anything. It makes sense to me.
Yeah, and even in the places where you are selling consoles and selling consoles well, the business you are going to make more money from an individual on a subscription than you are from a hardware purchase. And then also, if you want to hit Netflix numbers, you have to go beyond one hardware platform. You cannot get to that scale. You need people, as you say, people who would never buy a games console to have an Xbox
and to understand that they can have an Xbox without needing to buy a console. The rebrand makes so much sense to me that it's not like I like it, but it's also not for me. I already have 3 Xboxes, so it's
for the shareholders.
Yeah, it's all for the shareholders.
Very happy.
So the number one is focus even more on trying to get people onto the cloud. Number 2 is probably that Microsoft does what they have a history of doing, which is use the Xbox as a Trojan horse to get AI onto people's TVs, to get Gemini. Sorry, they're not using Gemini. There's this technically ChatGPT or Google AI, but to get that. No, it's not. There's too many at this point. They do fund most of ChatGPT.
By the time
I'm
they
forgetting
put it on Xbox,
what Mike. It's Copilot. The thing is, too fucking many of them. Okay, and Azure is their main whatever. To get that into TV spaces / anything else that they possibly can, and I think it probably starts with really simple stuff like AI generated guides while you're playing a video game. Or
that's something I've definitely heard and been pitched on.
Yep.
Like the idea of that.
Really
so that's
basic stuff like that will be what hits first. And it's just a means I guess that's what she's hired for. I really do think the suggestion that you would hire someone who is a CEO of Core AI, which is still a part of their brand, to sunset Xbox is absurd. Matt Booty could have sunsetted Xbox. Frankly, nobody could have sunsetted Xbox. You don't even need someone to do that. Same. You could pay me $10 million and I'll sunset Xbox for you. That sounds really easy. Why would you
What's the number someone would have to give you that you would never be able to exist online ever again? I'm trying to think what the number would be for me. It's in the tens of millions, I think. Probably.
To never exist online again? It would be...
Well, just because the audience would hate you if you were that person. Now you are buying in. You're basically... You're like a hired killer. So you're never going to be able to ever exist publicly ever again. What's the number? There's a number. There's a number I'd take for that deal. Anyway.
Not really something that I'm that concerned about.
I think you might be also
nice,
you're putting a lot of weight in the sort of disaffected gamer online.
So like of how many of them there are, I'm not that concerned about it, but I just don't buy that. It doesn't make any sense. They just spent so much money on it as well. It's about getting AI onto
too big a
TVs.
brand, and Game Pass Game Pass makes money. Like it does.
Xbox itself makes money. It's still profitable. Their revenue was $32 billion last year, but their profits are also in the billions. This is not the death of Xbox as it is being called. It is the change of Xbox. They've been clearly doing this for several years. Heading in this exact direction. And my hottest take here is people are very critical of the direction that Microsoft has gone in. I don't like it. I don't know if, my current thought is maybe after Fable and Gears E-Day, I don't play Xbox games anymore. I canceled my Game Pass subscription. I actually think because of this, Microsoft is better set up to survive the next 10 years than Sony and Nintendo are. I think that because they are making the foundation where all of the fucking money is, they're getting so much investment money. The stock market favors them so aggressively. Yes, there will be a crash, but they won't get rid of all of the money that's in AI. They are beefing up the data centers, which is clearly a part of our fucking future, whether we like it or not. I actually think that they have future-proofed themselves in a way that the other two have not.
Interesting. I would never bet against Nintendo.
I don't think Nintendo will ever change, to be fair. They're the only ones that I don't think will stop making
That's why
hardware.
they'll be here in 10 years, basically, is my argument.
I'm not saying they'll die. I just think that...
Okay. That won't be as strong as they are currently.
No, I think that Microsoft is the one who has done the most future-proofing. It's just a future that we don't like, but it's...
Interesting.
All fucking kids plays Roblox, man. If you could generate an AI game in Roblox, that's all kids need. Like, that's
Did you see the
sucks.
statistic the other day that that daily users in Roblox is all other platforms combined, basically?
Wild.
Steam, Fortnite, PlayStation, Xbox. It was 150 million daily users in Roblox, and it was basically all other platforms combined are about the same number.
Crazy. It is. That's what I mean. It's like if that's the way kids play games, that's the angle.
It said because
Microsoft is going for.
the tweet I was reading, I'm just taking at face value that these were accurate statements. So obviously I don't know, but they said that the financial reporting suggested that because Roblox, you don't go through Steam or the App Store or whatever to be able to do financial transactions with Roblox. They said Roblox has reached such a scale that $500 million alone of their revenue is just money that would have been lost in platform fees in were they on like requiring to go through iOS and things like that, which is it's crazy when you think about that, that percentage, whatever that is, 15% or whatever it is, or is it like, I can't remember, is it 30? I know Steam is
30.
more like 30, but either way, the idea that there's
contractually obligated not to say, I think.
the idea that there's the fact that there's hundreds of millions of dollars worth just in savings by virtue of the size of their platform. I was blown away. It's one of those Roblox is one of those things. It's sort of this foreign. It's as much as I theoretically exist in this industry. It is insane, the sheer impact of it, and I'm so deeply ignorant to it.
Same.
I don't know anybody that spends time in it. I don't know anybody that like makes Roblox games and stuff. And yet I know that there's billions. There's a multi. It's like as big as it's half the industry. It can't be overstated how big it is. And it's one of those that I'm like, how did this? It's sort of like when I'll see someone share a song on their Instagram stories, and I'll go, I've never heard of this person. I click, and it's some pop star that has 67 million followers, and I'm like, where did they come from? How have I never heard of someone that is?
I think we're describing the aging process here.
We are for sure.
But is this
But
bad of
Roblox is a
us
whole other level.
that
though.
we
It's
all
like
work in the games industry and haven't played Roblox and are all blind to it? Because I do feel like almost the whole industry is that way. Should we
It
Roblox?
does feel a little.
Should we be Robloxing?
I mean, I've not got any interest in Robloxing.
Neither.
I'm not super keen on it as a concept. But like, I mean, that's the thing is the industry
The
has
sheer reach. It seems like
drifted. Like if you, I would say a microcosm of this is like the number of indie games that do phenomenal numbers that the average punter would not name, that would name after 200 other indie games. The number of indie games that are selling insanely that I've never heard of as an indie game director who does pay attention to indie games and what's going on in the indie space. I think this is just the era we're in. It's just there's a lot of stuff we don't know. But it is funny when you go to like an event like DICE and you walk around and it is a celebration event like that. Feels like an industry that is the older legacy game. We have a legacy games industry now.
I kind of feel like, are we like
Roblox
a
and stuff
niche?
like that after we're...
Like, do you think that the other sides of the games industry look at us and go, these fucking losers with their stupid award shows that I'm not invited to? Or did they not think about us at all?
I don't think they think about us at all because I think they're all very, very wealthy.
Yeah.
And I think that probably helps.
I do know one person who
chills
became a
them the fuck
millionaire
out.
from making Roblox games.
Cool.
While he was a teenager.
That's less cool.
Yeah,
That's
it's a
where I
friend's
start to
cousin.
get a little angsty. That's
Drives a Lamborghini.
I'm good for that person. But as a grown-up industry, should we be doing the whole child labor thing?
The children
Makes me
yearn
a
for the
little
mines,
uncomfortable.
Mike.
But I mean, is it child labor? Does it run afoul of child labor if this person became a millionaire?
Think about all the kids who
became
didn't.
a millionaire,
Yeah.
but there's presumably a lot of children who didn't become millionaires.
One of my friend's kids.
Yeah, but they're not. I don't know. To me, entrepreneurially start. That's like should kids not be allowed to have lemonade
play the lottery,
stands?
do we? You know what I mean?
You know,
we don't
like,
let children.
but that's
we don't
different
let children
though.
play the lottery or take jobs in shops.
Playing the lottery is not the same thing though. It is because that's a single input. I just spend money and send it into oblivion. If you're actually
so a
making
better equivalent
a product,
would be child actors, right? Child actors, so a creative pursuit. The number of laws protecting child actors from the workplace and ensuring they have certain things and making sure their money flows in a way that is safe for all parties. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
That would be a better equivalent. I'll grant you that. We don't have any of those kind of protections in place in the games UGC.
That's a fair. I feel like most of those as someone who has met parents of aspiring child actors, I'm pretty on board with a lot of the laws that are. And actually, I have a friend who's a game writer and director who will never write a minor role. They will limit their own storytelling potential because they think basically the worst thing that happens to a child actor is they become successful. Like
there's a lot of data backing up that position.
Yeah, there's so many people that are so fucked up because they actually got what they were looking for, and so then you end up with this whole class of people that struggle. Like the ones that end up the most healthy are the ones that quote unquote failed because they
You're a failed child actor.
We've got to have gone into this at some point on the show.
I didn't know that.
We've gone.
I don't feel like I knew this either.
With this face, of course I was a child actor. Of course I was.
Sorry, of course. Apologies.
Yeah. There's respect I deserve.
I didn't know. I don't think I knew that, but I don't know where I think that there should obviously be laws protecting the kids who make Roblox maps or the kids who are making Minecraft maps. That was the thing too. I don't think that they should have to stop though, because if a kid just really enjoys doing that and happens to make money off of it, good for them.
Are you kidding? Like, if these tools existed, I mean, I was making games when I was 14. If I could have
True, a lot of people were.
Games,
yeah, exactly.
Modders often start working when they're teenagers and then get hired.
Quake mods and
Quake mods, yes.
I am not saying take the money away from the children. I'm saying
the children must be poor.
Structure in place to protect. That's the only way the proletariat will win. Capital must no. I think it's just protections. Some kind of structure by which kids are protected and looked after in those. If we're gonna introduce children to the workforce of the games industry, which is a big statement, if we're going to do that. And probably we can't not do that now. It's the genie's out of the bottle. How do we put protections in place to look after those children?
Tough to do when it's all self-employment type stuff, which I guess has been happening on YouTube for a long time. I don't know how you put that can of worms back in.
I think this is where a lot of it. I just look at it and I go, I think probably the unsatisfying answer to that is that the only actually reliable mechanism for that is just that hoping kids have good parents. Because I don't believe, for example, if I use the lemonade stand analogy again, like I just don't see any way to institutionally protect the outliers without casting too broad a stroke. And what are you supposed to, have cops keeping the lookout for kids with lemonade stands where I go,
no, but if I had a monopoly in the lemon growing business and I explicitly targeted children to sell my lemons for me, we'd have a conversation about that, wouldn't we? Like,
fair. That's a different.
When you intersect large corporations and individuals, that's where, for me, the mess starts to. Things get messy.
No, it's fair. I mean, given the reach, I guess, given the reach of Roblox that we're agreeing as a premise here, it is. They don't technically have a monopoly on anything, but I
wasn't, to be clear, and to be
monopoly
very
on
clear
child labor.
To be very clear from a legal British perspective, I'm talking hypothetically about hypothetical things.
No, but it's a point.
Or companies.
Fine, it's a point well made from the standpoint that if there are people who are using Roblox on a scale that dwarfs the rest of the industry, and that's the only thing they're using, then it's not that they're being coerced into a monopoly, but they aren't fending off competitors per se for their source of lemons.
Yeah,
as it were.
I wouldn't frame it in a negative way, in the sense of like, I wouldn't frame it as this is children are being mistreated. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that given that the second children enter the workforce, it is our responsibility as grown-ups to protect those children within that workforce. That's all I'm saying. And
it's an interesting,
very milquetoast position to take.
Yeah, and I don't really disagree with that on the face of it. It's an interesting conundrum though, because I love the idea of rewarding an entrepreneurial spirit from young kids. Like if some kid comes up with a freaking kick-ass game idea and can build it in Roblox and actually other people like it, I go, that's a world I want to live in, where that is someone's creative impulse yielding dividends. It's not just a thing that goes online and, you know, just disappears and whatever. They actually get rewarded for that. I go, there's a good thing there worth not losing sight of, while also acknowledging, you know, there's something else at play that might be insidious, and I don't know where the cards fall in terms of the balance between those things. But I anything that encourages people to be expressive and creative and to actually make things, I'm gonna be a bit sort of blindly devoted to, because that's what you know, you'd be hard pressed to name more beautiful things to have in life. You know, to be able, I dreamed of a thing and I paid my bills from it. I've staked my entire profession on the premise that that's a true statement.
True,
you know,
yeah.
I mean, we all have. And
I would never stand in the way of someone else's opportunity to do that, for sure. No, absolutely not. No.
Yeah,
So
but it is an interesting challenge.
That's the answer. We're old and we're out of touch.
We got to start roadblocking, is what I'm hearing. I went to a friend's house and their son was playing Roblox and he was coding inside of Roblox badly. It was very difficult for me not to correct him, to be clear. Happy he's learning. I did go that.
So
that
you're blocking the creativity of children. Me and Austin are celebrating the entrepreneurial.
Is teaching a child to code blocking their creativity?
He's teaching a child to code. Is teaching a child to code?
Correctly.
I think you should have just left it to an AI to do. To be honest, I think that would have been
which they will, and I do think that.
Who are you to say what's right and what's wrong? Well, isn't there just like culturally contextual code?
But he also just kept saying things to me that I knew were wrong, and I was like, okay, yeah, no, that'll happen.
Sounds
that
like
way.
He's going to be a very good game director one day, and I think we should endorse that.
It was tough. But he would never have even thought about doing
kidnapping
that.
the child, and you know, really
how do you know about that?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. We can cut this part.
Yeah, we got to edit. Cut that. He was doing it, I guess, with childish grandeur of making millions of dollars, but also he just loves doing it. Kind of both. Yeah. Like, he's very, very excited by it and is trying to ask his parents if they'll let him go to, like, a coding camp. And apparently this is, like, children right now is split between Roblox dev and content creator. Apparently that's all they want. That's all. I'm every adult friend that I have, that they're like, you have to talk to my child. And I have basically a list at this point of children that I have to get through to be like, are you sure? You want to make YouTube videos? Are you sure?
Well, you can do either. You can do either angle. You're available for both those.
It's terrible. Yes,
yeah.
I'm in demand with the youth.
You're intersectional.
Yeah. A few years ago, I saw a thing. If this was already a few years ago, so that it may have changed, but it was something like, you know, kind of peak coming out of the pandemic, or like in the probably in the crux of it, where we were at absolute maximum amount of onlineness just by virtue of lockdowns and stuff. Mm-hmm. There was like a Gallup or whoever poll of teenagers that said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And by far the number one was famous. And it's because the influencer concept, where they, you know, they're just like, I just want to make content. And you go, well, about what? Like, what, you know, whatever takes off, whatever gets traction.
Have they tracked? Is that generationally unique? Because like when we were kids, we wanted to be movie stars or rock stars.
But that's
right?
so
like,
different. That to me, that's different.
Okay.
I want to excel at a thing and be famous for it. To me, is infinitely
saying,
more laudable. There's obviously plenty of problems with that, but it's Like, I never met
Yeah.
anybody that growing up, just obviously this is purely anecdotal, but I never met anybody growing up who's just said, I want to be famous as a category, and it didn't matter for what. It could be like, oh, yeah, sure, an athlete, a writer, a singer, wouldn't it matter? But people that's, it's one of those where I just go, is that's such an odd, like,
I don't know if I knew anyone who wanted to be famous. When I was a kid, I don't think that was a thing anyone spoke about ever. That could be, though, that maybe that where I'm from, people in Cairns didn't tend to have huge dreams.
50%
but it's
of
people younger than
around
you, though,
were
and we're talking about
anyway, though, right? They were all getting jobs on Neighbours, so that was,
What?
What?
You grew up in Australia. I was
Yeah.
doing a job about Australia from a British perspective. Doesn't matter. It
Oh,
doesn't matter.
you were
It
talking
was a
about
bad
Neighbours,
joke.
the show?
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
confused
that
because,
was like,
yep, no, I get you. I'm sorry about that. That's my bad.
yeah,
That's
no,
my
it was
bad.
Shit, no, I let
Even
you down, I
then,
let you down,
nobody wanted to
sorry.
do that.
I don't
though.
get this joke because we fought a war to be free of all these Commonwealth.
Of all our culture,
yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
It's really helped your
And
culture a
rightly
whole
so,
lot.
like rightly so,
Yeah, it's worked out great.
But yeah, I think it's a. I don't know if that's still a trend or if that was just like a little pocket of time. And now, if you were asked a 15-year-old in 2026, who would have been,
Again, I think that is still happening just based on the fact that every human that I know who has a child, I have to talk to them about being an influencer. They're like, can you tell them that they shouldn't?
You're trying to influence
I go, yes.
them?
Basically, I think I might have shared this before, but one time he's 16 now, I think, really wanted to be a YouTuber. His parents dropped him over, and I was like, great, let's make a YouTube video. And I was going to just show him exactly how that process works and how long it takes. And by the end, he was just watching YouTube videos. He didn't want to finish the single video that we were going to make.
This is like
No
parents who
interest in it.
give their kid like 50 cigarettes at once, right? This is
Try it.
This is a version, yeah.
I wasn't trying to put him off, to be clear. I was trying to actually teach him, but I understand, like, the minute that you open Premiere Pro, I feel like a child is like, huh?
I will say that actually,
And that's the cutoff that makes the entire creative industries work. We understand that, right? It's three people who've got careers in the creative industries. The fact that 95% of people at the very first hurdle
True.
go,
Huh?
nah, that seems like a lot.
Huh?
That's why we are able to do these jobs. That's we rely on those people to have that reaction. I think it's wonderful. I think it's okay.
It's
That's
no,
absolutely fine.
I actually very unironically agree with that because not from a it's good to discourage people job security wise kind of angle, but the idea that a lot of people fall in love with a dream with no concept as to the actual tangible realities of that. Literally, these master classes that I was doing yesterday and the day before in Oklahoma, I was speaking to a lot of university students, and the feedback I always get from these when I hear later from the people that organize them and bring me out was that I tend to be a lot more real, and like I'll talk real numbers, and I will show, like I will discuss budgets, and I will explain how things work, and because I want them to know cold hard truths, and go, oh. Because I remember we had my agent, actually, funny enough, was one of our teachers 20 years ago when I was in school. He wasn't obviously my agent at the time. And a lot of the class hated him because he was that way. He spoke. I remember on the first day, we're at his, and this guy represents, a million big composers.
I'm imagining Whiplash. Like that's the energy I'm getting immediately. Like this is a.
I mean, kind of. Yeah. We met in his office, and he goes. There's about 20 of you in here in the class. And how many, if you really soul search, how many of you picture yourself ending in the true kind of A-list roster of composers? Meaning there's no job that would be sort of too big. They need to hire someone bigger than you. There's nowhere above. How many of you, and of course, a bunch of 21-year-olds or whatever, like, yeah, fuck yeah. And he goes, well, just for what it's worth, statistically, it'll be none of you. And also for what it's worth, the entire A-list is the size of this class. It's maybe about 20 people of like, we're talking the John Williams category here. That there's just not that many in what I would truly define as the peak A-list.
I genuinely got in trouble one time for saying that to a class of students because there was a trend that I don't know if this is the case still. I hope it's not. But there was a trend in the UK industry when there was a few indie hits, of which Thomas Was Alone was one of them, that like British made indie games. All the universities pivoted to like emphasizing indie to their students and basically teaching the students like this is a degree you get so you can make indie games. And I went into a room and I asked a question of like, how many of you want to be in AAA versus indie? And everyone put their hand up on indie. And it's just this thing of, well, I know like 20 British indie devs who like make a good living doing this. And this is a classroom of 20 people. It's exactly the same statistic your teacher used. It's
What's
like,
the value of saying that to kids? I think there's a lot of value
well, no, for me, it wasn't really the kids that was the issue. My frustration was with the teachers. I was like, why are you not emphasizing to them that they should be learning skills that can get them work?
Yes, okay, so I'm in agreement that, like, you know, this kid comes to my house and I teach him how to make a YouTube video, I open OBS and I go on Premiere Pro or whatever, and then I'm showing him the thing that he doesn't want to see and he just wants to see the video part. That I get the value of. What's the value in telling people that they statistically aren't going to make it?
So
Even
that
if
they
it's
don't have an
true.
unrealistic expectation.
But
For
won't
me,
they
it
have that
was, I
anyway?
hope-
Like, are you?
Well,
Is it ever going to
me
work?
So in my specific situation, for me, it was about trying to to lead them onto the other train track. They were on a track where that was the case, and I was basically making an argument for,
If you're opening their
hey,
minds to
maybe
being like,
go-
you're going to need a job in this.
maybe
particular
go
thing.
and work
Sure.
on maybe go work at a company that has 500 people employed. That's
Great experience.
maybe a better place to start your career. Yeah, exactly.
But
That
like,
was-
if
that was
someone
basically my
starts
point.
thinking, I'm going to be #1 indie game dev, yeah, I guess that's a little different to a composer because composers need to be
I think,
gainfully employed. But like, if they have those aspirations, isn't that just going to make them work their butts off, even if most of them don't reach those heights?
I think you're underestimating how much most of their teachers are talking to them in this matter-of-fact way that you are the next Toby Fox. You are the next whoever. Like, because I hated that. All my other professors gave me these platitudes of your success is inevitable. You are going to be the next big thing. You know, and
annoyingly, in your case, they were right, which kind of fucks up the whole thing.
A little bit.
It was might in fact be the nicest thing you've ever said to me.
It might be. I won't do it.
Feel
again.
free to
You'll
go
do it
take a
another
cold
6
shower.
years.
Yeah. No, but I never felt like I felt like I was being spoken to dishonestly because
Were
I
they
just
doing
thought
that to everyone?
Yes, of course. No, it wasn't to me personally. It was like, you students,
that
you're
is
all
weird.
gonna be. But because that's what they're selling a dream. That's sort of what you go to the school to get the education on the premise it can come true.
It devalues what they're saying when you know that. Like I did a game design degree, and I was on a course, and there were good people on the course. Actually, a lot of very good people, like a few years behind me. On my year, I was the only person to graduate that course having made any kind of interactive thing. Like, nobody else bothered to code anything. They just made, like, you know, a document or artwork. And I remember the lecturers talking to us in the way you're saying, Austin. And I'm sat there going, well, why am I bothering to do all the stuff I'm trying to do, teaching myself to code, basically? to kind of
Maybe
do
it's an
this
Australian
stuff
thing.
when
We didn't fucking
that's
have
not-
that at all.
Yeah.
There's at no point in my
maybe-
school
yeah.
did they give a whole class sermon
You guys
about
grow
everyone
up
being
around
amazing.
like spiders and snakes and shit, so like there's a
It's
natural
true. They're just
resilience
lucky to be
that's built
alive.
into you.
Great
yeah.
point.
Like you.
I think
Coddled
if you think about it,
in the UK.
if you think about it from a kind of simple market forces standpoint, if somebody is going to university and forking over a ton of money on the basis of, I want to turn this into a dream, there's going to be a certain amount of pressure on the faculty to not make them feel like this is $50,000 a year being poorly spent.
Customer service, right? Customer retention, yeah.
True.
It's one of those where, like, if universities were compensated based on the success of the alumni and not based on the just the ability to get a loan or whatever,
Good
then
point.
like it would be a very, very different incentive structure. They would say, okay, we're only accepting 3 composers this year, and we're gonna have an insanely arduous audition process to choose one because our income stream is dependent on them actually doing well. It's not currently dependent on them doing well. The more students they have, in a way, the better. Of course, these schools are. I work with a lot of them. I do tons of master classes for composition programs. I don't mean to sound disparaging of the whole concept. I just understand there is a pressure on them to offer a thing, and it can be a very blurry line between we're trying to arm you with skills for success and convincing you that that's all that it is. And so, like, my whole to kind of put a button on it, I don't sit there. I'm not discouraging. I'm trying to be very real. I'm trying to just be
I completely get it, to be clear. Like, I'm not arguing against being realistic. I feel like I do that all the time. Like, right now, it's very difficult to talk to anyone who tells me they want to get into game development. It's really hard for me to do that.
It's a brutal work. Yeah, we're in a tough
I'm not going to lie to them and be like, you are Toby Fox waiting to happen.
Yeah.
You're the next one. I'm not willing to do it. It's just thinking about, I just a thing I've never really thought about before, I suppose, is like, your job is to, in part, inspire kids. Obviously, also in part to, I mean, if they're at university, they're not kids, but you know what I mean? Students also in part to give them the tools.
The Overton window, in a manner of speaking, of age defining youth is ages with you. Like, to me, anyone below 30 is now a kid.
If you're in school, you're a kid.
Exactly.
I feel about
24 and under. Yeah.
If you're a 40-year-old that goes back to university, kid.
You're a kid. Yeah, exactly.
Sorry about that.
A retiree and an ongoing education
and
program.
A kid. Yes.
Yeah. I the way I look at it is I try to hit them. I try to hit them in a two-pronged way, equally forcefully. One is very cold hard facts, and like you said, speak to the truths of the industry, speak to the truths of, like, I made very clear. I spoke. One of the composition students said, how financially viable is this career specifically in video games? Because they were mostly studying film scoring, and so they didn't really know much about the economics. And I said I scored Flow for that game company and Sony at age 21 while finishing my last year of college, and I would not have been able to survive if I was not with, my ex now. But at the time, she was working like at stores like Old Navy and Lululemon as a floor manager, and the combined income of that was enough to sort of barely survive our one-bedroom apartment needs. And in early 20s, that it felt like it was fucking awesome. So I always try. That's why I say it's a two-pronged message where I go, to be clear, I feel like I'm living the dream. It is outrageous to me how lucky I feel, and especially right now, I have work. And I have a lot of composer friends that don't. And like, I am extremely grateful, and I try to make it clear to them that if you feel cut out to handle the whips and scorns, as it were, then it's a dream job. It's really awesome. But I don't want you to have an unrealistic picture of how hard it can be. And also, everything about my career could dissolve tomorrow. Like I have had conversations with people that are childhood heroes of mine that have been in the business for decades longer than me, where they're staring out at an empty landscape going, I'm twiddling my thumbs. And it's like this crisis of conscience going, but you're one of the Mount Olympus ones. You're the one, you're one of those, like, it would be the equivalent of if I was a writer and Tim Schafer was like, hey, I don't suppose, do they need, or like someone who's like writing game writing god,
it's me, Tim Schafer.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, it's Timmy Boy.
Like, do you need any, or if Ken Levine were to call saying like, hey, I don't suppose there's any positions open that you know about or need writers or whatever, you're like, but you're supposed to be one of the figures that paves the way. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and so it's just like, I've had conversations, like, I'm obviously not naming names, but I've had conversations with composers that you just assume they're good because like, how could they not be? They've been doing this forever. Yeah. And so it's like I always try to pair those things and say it can be rough, and I could lose everything this week, and I don't feel entitled to my career, and I'll fight for it, but the universe doesn't owe me this. I'm very much in the grateful column, but if all that sounds like something you can stomach, then fucking go for it, because it is awesome.
I think there's a responsibility to be realistic. I think I don't think it's our job to put anyone off or kind of make anyone feel bad about their aspiration, but I think that's one of the things we do on this show, actually. I think giving an honest representation of the obsessions and concerns of people who work in games is I think a good thing. And I think
just listen to our group therapy sessions, basically. Did I ever tell you that about the time that it was like my last...
Oh, are we recording?
It was like my last week at Sony, and a guy asked me for a meeting, and he was, I think, an intern, and he got the job / was inspired to get the job because of this podcast. I was like, that's really insane. It was like, I felt like it was like a handover. I was like, hey, good job, man. Here you are.
It's
Was
nice.
it what, meaning like I could do it better than those idiots kind of motivation?
I'm sure he was like, "This
They
is
were like, if
these people don't know what the
schools-
fuck they're talking about." I think he may have been a
That's a nice
production
positive. That's a positive way
That
to.
man's
to
name,
kind of-
Corey Barlow.
It's a positive way to
Child
kind of
actor.
think about this. That's
Really?
and if anyone, I'm just gonna.
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, to be fair, it's usually me doing it, so I'm not gonna.
No, genuinely, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike.
So, Mike, go ahead.
Carry on. Proceed.
I've been silenced.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think. I'm done. I'm not done. I think positively, it is. If there's one thing I want people who are watching this who have got a few years in the industry and are doing, maybe being asked to do like visit degree courses or visit students or whatever, genuinely the payoff is often like years later, seeing the ripples of doing stuff like that. I was talking to someone the other day who I met as a student, and I said one sentence to that kid that I liked something that he got, and he spoke to me years later and said that was a massive and I'd obviously forgotten that I said one sentence. I talked to.
It was
20
the like
students
Soviet
I was like, fuck
sleeper
you,
agent activation
but
phrase.
these things echo back. Like the number of times I'll be at an event and someone will come up to me and say, you did a lecture, or and this isn't me blowing my own horn, this is me encouraging other people to do the same thing, it reverberates around, and you do get to meet those people later in their careers. And yes, the number of people who've come up about Play Watch Listen and been like, I love Alana and Austin, you're kind of annoying, but like it's good that you do that show. Like these things do matter, and it is good. Wow, she's just rage quit the call.
She's like, go on. You know what? Fuck off.
Such a passive aggressive move. I love it. That
I wonder.
also means the recording's done as well. or cancelled
Yes,
as
it
well.
may. We
Yeah.
may be. Yes, we may have to. We may have to ask.
Well, I'm still recording my audio locally, so this is the.
That's what I was gonna say. We have audio, so we may need to. We may need to AI generate our visuals from this point forward.
The level of unprofessionalism. But yeah, I meant what I said. I think it does. I'm sure you've had that, right? You've had people kind of come up to you and who've then ended up in industry who remembered a because you've been doing it as long as I have. You've definitely done you've had conversations with students and stuff, and then it's kind of reverberated back eventually.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For sure. Oh, look who comes crawling back.
Just rage quitting because Mike wanted to
your
speak.
guilty
for a bit.
conscience.
Oh my god,
guilty.
you're right. That Zoom just went, absolutely not. He's trying again.
Yeah.
You're not going to say anything?
Yeah.
Zoom just crashed.
Ah, interesting
Yeah.
theory. But yes, long and short of it, I've gotten some nice. Actually, one of the most funny examples of that recently. I shouldn't overstate it as, oh, you're the reason I do this or anything like that. But when I jumped on last year, whenever a week or two after Expedition 33 came out, and I played it and fell in love with it, and I hunted down the composer Lorian and said, we got to do an episode of Game Maker Notebook together, and he was like, I bought your, like, I sell these sheet music books on my Bandcamp merch page of, like Journey and Banner Saga and stuff. And he had bought one. I had shipped him one, not knowing who he was, years earlier. And we had an email exchange even that he wrote, just like, thank you for, this is helpful to younger composers. And I wrote back like, oh, that's why I do it. I'm thrilled it was helpful or something like that, with no, like, because when I went and looking for his email address, it's like just right there as this thing from 2022 or whatever. And I thought, oh, that's cool. Obviously, I take zero credit of
we
any
are
kind.
responsible for everyone we have ever encouraged success. I want to be very clear. I'm taking full credit.
Expedition 33 is basically because of me. No, it was.
have
It
been
was.
saying this.
It's. I thought
People
so.
are saying this.
It's. Yeah. It was actually. It was lovely to see. And it is one of those funny moments where a zillion emails over the years kind of come and go.
Yeah.
And it's not uncommon. I'll meet someone at GDC invariably every year that goes, I'll introduce myself, and they go, well, actually, we exchanged emails about 7 years ago, and that's kind of part of why I'm at GDC now, is you had told me, well, if you want to get the ball rolling on the industry,
It's the best and the worst part of doing this is that you can have a massive impact on someone positively or negatively based on one interaction.
Yeah, for sure.
I've definitely had that.
That's
where
what Old Boy's about. Isn't that a thing? Like, it's just
there you go,
tiny little inconsequential thing that ruins your life.
In a way, I feel I've been locked in this room for 8 years.
When I do these master classes and stuff, they invariably they'll ask the story of how did you get into the business, and I like to tell it. I like to be a little indulgent and tell it in a kind of meandering way, where I tell this story about how I applied to go to the University of Southern California for my, straight out of high school. I didn't get into their composition program, though. I got into the kind of university in this generalized sense, but the music program wouldn't take me. And so I went to NYU instead, and then 2 years later I transferred and finished at USC. And stalker. And and I had to take a class. I had to sing in the men's choir because it was a degree requirement. You have to have done ensemble performance for at least one semester as a composition major, just as part of a general musical well-roundedness, right? So if you're even as a composition major, if you're good enough violinist to play the school orchestra, okay, that's how you can satisfy that. But my main instrument was piano. But I was, there's like piano students. There's not that many slots for piano. You can stick them in a jazz band or you can stick them in the orchestra. But there's already, there's very few slots compared to like. They need 50 violins, you know what I mean? And so, and I was never a great pianist because I'd always focused on conducting in high school. And so they were like, well, we have a choir for useless people like you who have no other place to go, basically. And so I was singing in the choir, and crucially, I was singing in it as a third-year student, not what would have been my first year, because usually it's a thing you knock off right when you arrive. But because I had been a transfer student and I didn't have a credit to transfer for this particular part of the degree requirement, I had to do it. So because 2 years later than I would have been, I happened to be in the choir. We were doing our little cheesy end of semester concert. There was a guy in the audience, like a random dude. There was no one in the audience. This was basically just sing to no one and know that therefore you sang. Who would come to this choir concert? It was like noon on a Thursday
John
or whatever.
Williams.
There was a guy in the audience, and I went up and sat next to him and started talking to him. And it turns out he was in what that year was the inaugural class of USC's master's degree in game design. I didn't even know that was a thing. I had gone to USC in part because it's such a magnet for student filmmakers. I didn't know game design was a thing you could study in college. I thought all college was fed by computer science.
Are we both the first year of a degree? I was the first year of a game design degree. Are we both that old?
Well, this was 2005. But either way, I met this guy, scored his, we hit it off. I scored his little student games. And then about a month later, which was almost to the day today, 20 years ago exactly, his classmate, Genova Chen, cold emailed me and said, my classmate Steven recommended you. And then that led to us doing Flow as a student project, which led to doing it as a thing. So I tell this whole story in even more of a long-winded way. And I go, 2 takeaways for, those of you who are the exact age that I was when all this story began, like 20 through 22 or whatever. First off, I would not have the life and career that in fact, the way I phrased it was, I said, if someone had tapped me on the shoulder in the exact moment that I was looking at this dude in the audience going, who's this guy? I want to go introduce him, and distracted me, everything about my life would not have happened. I would never have met that guy, which means I would have never met Genova, and I would have never worked on Flow, and then most importantly, I would never have worked on Journey, and everything about my career has been this domino effect as a result of that. So I said, not only did it all hinge on a thing that I had no control over in that moment, but actually it's even one better than that. If I had gotten what I wanted and gotten into USC as a freshman, I also would not have had the dream that I have, because I had to be there at that point in life doing a class that normally I would have taken 2 years earlier. So I said, the lesson is none of this is in our control.
Yeah, I do think if something is in your control,
voice. That's the
join the choir.
Join the choir.
If I'd had a better singing voice, I would have been in the better choir. Funny enough.
Great point. I think that you can set yourself up with the skill set that you need to do the work that you want to do. That, like, when you were saying this earlier, you mentioned, some of the people that you consider to be the greats are not working. My head went to the way to keep, but I was like, that people probably assume that they're working or think they're inaccessible. The way to keep working really is the exact thing that you spoke about doing, which is just continue talking to people. I think the second that you isolate yourself people don't see you as accessible, people assume you're too busy, people assume you're too expensive, and then you don't get to work on things anymore. The going to events and talking to people is the value of GDC, despite it becoming increasingly expensive and difficult to get visas and tough to be in the US right now. Is you can
I still think it's worth it. Yeah, it's
you
what
can make a lifelong friendship that results in a trickle effect of you continuing to work. Like that's just the way that it is. I just worked on a short film in New York last weekend, and one of the actors is a 70-year-old man who only decided to start acting at 65. Worked his entire life in sales and retired and has family and decided that he'd always wanted to try acting. So he gave it a shot and is now a working actor. He's non-union, so because he doesn't really need the money, all he does largely is short films or student projects.
That's so cool.
Dude, it was awesome. I was like, I should tell my dad about this. It's so fucking cool. But it was also
you didn't get caught in the weather, right, in New York. Was it bad?
I mean, it was cold, but no, I left before the blizzard started. But we did get snow, so it's actually a Christmas short, and it was like it snowed right in time as we had to do an outdoor scene. It was like, you got production value you can't pay for. But that conversation with that guy and hearing his story and being so interested in his story made me go, anytime I need a 7-year-old, I'm probably going to call that guy. I did just have Bruce Davison was one of the lead actors on the feature that we shot in December. He was wonderful. But this much scrappier, non-SAG, non-award nominated man is much more accessible and much more flexible. And I was like, that's like, what a cool fucking story that like, I just happened to be in that room because I know the director and he knows the director and we all get together. And that's someone that like, I was like, I'll 100% hire him again if I ever have the opportunity to. And if he hadn't told me that story, it never even would have occurred to me. Like, it's just, I talk to people is an incredibly valuable thing that I'm sure we've said on this show over many, many years. That's Austin sat next to a random dude in a choir. And here he is today at the peak of his career on Play, Watch, Listen. He's done it all.
And he thanks God every day for that opportunity. And I think it was very big of you to give Austin that opportunity, Alana.
I guess it is a.
I guess
it is.
And to a lesser extent, me. To a lesser extent, me.
Similar extent, but yeah.
Similar extent. Okay, fair enough.
It's also a positive reflection of our relationship that I can treat what you just said as unambiguously a laugh line, and you not
it's a joke.
So offended, so as to say something about it, whether you're feeling it or not. Absolutely. Actually, I'm glad that you said.
I want to dig in on this. Is this a tough podcast for you, Austin, with a Brit and an Aussie who are both kind of on the kind of we're going to be mean to you because we love you end of the spectrum?
I think Austin does a great job here.
I'm quite accustomed to.
Actually, Austin, you might be one of the meaner Americans I know.
That's fair.
Really?
That's fair.
You genuinely might be. Yeah, your sense of humor is very British American in a lot of ways.
I thought maybe the first time anyone has ever called me mean. Angela routinely accuses me of being far too nice.
No, I think maybe the only or one of a very small handful of male American friends who's jokingly called me a bitch. Usually Americans are too afraid to do it. Usually Americans are far too polite to do that. You're one of maybe 3. And I'm always like, you did it. You figured it out. You get to do that.
Maybe this is a cycle, the origin of which is hard to pin down because I have too many friends. Yeah, exactly. I think you might be just seeing your own influence reflected back at you.
I do call you a bitch a lot.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Before and after we record most days, actually.
Yeah. Bitch ass Austin Wintory.
I'm a big fan of irreverent. In fact, I always tell people the biggest way for you to lose all integrity with me is if you tell a joke and then you say just kidding. I'm like, I want you to go to your grave on the ambiguity that I might not know you were kidding.
Yeah.
I want you to believe
Andy Kaufman.
It's always worth it.
I really thought that we would talk about Phil Spencer today. I thought I was great. It's super easy. Obviously, it's what we're going to talk about. It's what everyone's talking about. What do I title this?
Just call it that.
You title
we
it
unpack
Xbox drama.
Phil Spencer exiting Xbox.
For
That's the title of the
maybe
episode.
2 minutes.
No.
Phil Spencer.
Cut it
in
then.
boxes.
We predict the future of Xbox, we predict the future of Nintendo. Even better, thanks to Phil Spencer.
Nintendo : doomed. There you go.
I'll put
Yeah,
that on the
and-
thumbnail.
Or just reuse the one from a month ago or whatever that says we talk about sex.
That did
and
great.
then
Did you
just-
see how many views that episode got? I
I
have
mean, how shocking.
no clue why. I was like, did it just?
No
did we just
clue?
get,
Not to be rude
well,
to the audience, but I record this and immediately forget it happened. That's
I mean,
fine.
generally,
That's
I don't
fine.
really look. That podcast episode has 161,000 views.
Oh wow.
Brilliant. Well, we're a draw. So do we need to?
That's
pivot?
got to be up there. That's
Where
got to
did it
be
get
up.
shared?
Right?
That's really funny.
It might be our most viewed episode on YouTube of all time.
Is this literally just an illustration that the word sex sells? Is that what this is?
Look,
basically,
dispatch,
ultimately?
anything dispatch related does very well for me, obviously,
It
because
was
a bunch
blowing
of
up. In
dispatch is
fairness.
part of my audience. Otherwise, okay, no, it hasn't yet beat the Troy. It has. No, it has. It beat the Troy NFT episode, which was our previously most viewed episode. It has. It beat it by 10K. Crazy.
Damn.
That's really
It's
funny.
NFTs and sex from here on out, everybody. Give the people what they want.
I think NFT is going to catch on. I think one day. I think
Yeah.
people.
We
are
really-
just, you
we
just
really
don't-
should
A lot of you
sell-
don't understand NFTs.
Stop being so
You don't
close-minded.
understand NFTs.
Being close-minded, it
Stop
clearly
being
will work.
close-minded.
You don't know
It's
how
really
games
gonna-
work,
It's kick off any day now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
obviously. And on that note, subscribe to Play, Watch, Listen Coin. We sell monkeys. Two separate things.
New information.
Same scam. I'm a lot of video. See you guys next time. Bye.